Hello, I'm going to show you two ways to connect Adrena software to your performance instruments with wires and wirelessly. Firstly, we want to set the parameters that will allow NMEA to communicate with Adrena. We begin by connecting everything, all the performance instruments, the AIS and the GPS. Then we can start by automatically detecting the connections. In Adrena, I select Automatic Detection of Connections. A small application opens that scans all the serial ports it can find on the computer. It also provides the NMEA transmission speeds. Here you can see that the software is reading data on serial port 19 at 38,400 baud. It detects the GPS, the performance instruments and also the AIS. AIS is often not detected because it sends NMEA sentences less frequently than GPS or the performance instruments. So if the AIS sends nothing during the detection period, the software will not find it automatically. Once it has found a signal, we can interrupt the setup detection process. To do so, we must close the window. The software has found the performance instruments, the GPS and the AIS on the COM19 port. I confirm this configuration. The connection window opens and indicates that the performance instruments were found on port COM19. GPS position and AIS data are being passed through the performance instrument system. While we're in the connection parameters of the computer, we can see here that we can change the type of performance instruments. This selects the data protocols communicated by different types of performance instrument. Why do we have to select between NMEA, NKE or BNG? Simply because the NMEA sentences vary slightly between the performance instruments of different manufacturers. So here we have NKE, so I select NKE to ensure that we receive the correct data from our performance instruments. This is a percentage of the polars, for example. Here I confirm the parameters. I can see my position, my boat as it moves, my AIS targets and wind information. Now we will look at another case. What happens if AIS is not recognized during the automatic connection process? The software automatically detects the GPS and the performance instruments, but not the AIS. Why is this? Simply because there were not enough boats within AIS range during the setup process. Therefore, no AIS sentences were received. So as I do have AIS, I'm going to have to set up its connection manually. I open the connections window and I say I have AIS, which is being passed through the performance instruments and onto the COM19 port along with the GPS. Manually I confirm the connection of the AIS to the performance instruments, and I can now see that my AIS targets are being registered. So to find the connection window, I click on Settings, General Settings, and I select the Connection tab. Here we see the connection page that opens on its own once the automatic detection of connections process is finished. This is where you can manually adjust the various connection parameters of the performance instruments and the GPS and AIS on the serial ports. Now let's look at another case, connection via a wireless router or the NMEA wireless interface of a performance instrument system. So the NKE Wi-Fi box receives all the information from the performance instruments, wind, boat speed, etc., and the GPS information. There is an NMEA input on the box which receives the AIS data. We will connect to this box. Within My Wi-Fi Networks, I see the NKE Wi-Fi box. I click to connect to it. Once it is connected, I need to complete the parameters within the Adrena connection window. I go to Menu Settings, General Settings, and then the Connection tab. Unlike a wired connection, the wireless connection is via UDP. So on my performance instruments, I choose UDP connection. I then enter the UDP port number provided by the manufacturer. So on an NKE interface, the UDP port is shown in the manual as 50,000. So I must send information from the performance instruments on the same UDP port, 50,000. As I said earlier, the wireless interface receives GPS information via the performance instruments as well as AIS data. I confirm this here, and I see that I start to receive my AIS targets, wind information, as well as the position of my boat. So we have just seen the different possible ways to pull navigation information into Adrena, either via a wired connection or a wireless one. See you again soon for more new tutorials.